Welcome to By the Bookshelf this evening. So, we're basically 4 months into this pandemic now. 4 months of the building being closed, 4 months of not being able to physically worship together. We had really hoped it'd be getting better by this time. Our original goal of shutting things down, not having in person gatherings, was to flatten the curve, and that seemed to be working. We had a common goal as a nation, as a church, as a community. But unfortunately, as things across the country have reopened, we're seeing a record number of new cases every day. Now, whether that's because of more testing or disease spread, it doesn't really matter. The result is the same. We're still in the first wave of this disease, and we must continue to be diligent in flattening that curve over and over again. Hospitals are filling up due to COVID and also just the everyday summer issues that bring people into hospitals. So we will continue to do our part at Derry. The goal is still to flatten the curve and not to contribute to the problem of community spread. What we don't want is for someone to be infected at an event at Derry and spread it to family and co-workers, or have to quarantine themselves, which can cause issues for work or school. Every new case brings challenges for individuals and the community, and even more so when school starts this fall. Honestly, I was hoping the curve would have been more flat by this time and not exponentially rising. I didn't think the disease would be eradicated by this time, but I wasn't thinking it'd be worse now than it was in April. It's hard to think all the things we did to flatten the curve seem to have gone out the window. But that's not the way to think about it, that every day we're trying to keep it down. It's almost like bailing water out of a boat. You know the water's going to keep coming in. If you stop bailing, you're definitely going to sink. You have to keep going. And at times it may seem like there's more water in the boat. At other times you get it almost down, but then it keeps coming in the moment you stop bailing. That's kind of the predicament we're in now, and it does get tiring. Scooping water and dumping, scooping water and dumping. But we keep doing it because we don't want to sink. Now, we know more about this disease now than we did back then, but we still know very little. I get the frustration many people have with guidance from experts because the guidance seems to change. First, we're told no masks, and then we're told that masks are necessary, which is it? The reality is we're going to keep learning and have to rethink strategies and recommendations. Novel coronaviruses are new, which means doctors have to start from scratch. They do the best they can with very limited information, but people keep asking questions, so they have to answer them knowing they don't know fully. They have to answer with limited information. As they get new information, they adjust their thinking. And then people level charges that, well, you're just making things up, or you don't know. That's how it always is. That's how life is for everyone. We think differently now than we did when we were 5 because we gained new information. We adjust our lives due to experiences, learning, and trial and error. It's the same thing when working with a new disease, just at an accelerated rate. There will be new findings that may confirm or negate previous thinking. And while studies are performed, those studies aren't exhaustive. They're small samples because this hasn't been around that long to get giant big samples. They are new and limited when they are first done. They may point to a new truth, but it cannot be 100% guaranteed. And the thing with this virus is it also mutates. So what may be found to be true in April, something new may come along that negates that in August. For instance, one study shows that antibodies to COVID-19 can go away after a few weeks, which means reaching that 70% threshold for herd immunity naturally may end up being impossible. Now, this is just one study, it isn't proven. It just goes to show we don't understand how this virus works, and we have to acknowledge that. We have to come at it with a lot of humility, thinking, well, we don't know for sure. Are we going to be safe rather than sorry? Are we just going to plow ahead? We don't know everything about it, so we can't make assumptions that, well, if we all just get sick, we'll have herd immunity, and we might as well do it now than wait till later. That may not work. So we have to be careful. Studies are also showing the virus lingers in the air longer than previously thought, and that the virus is mutating to make transmission even easier. So what does all this mean for the church? I wish I knew. I know we have to remain vigilant and careful. We have to continue to think about everything we're doing, continue to make sacrifices. We have a task force with some very wise and smart people who understand this stuff a lot better than I do. And I'm leaning heavily on their guidance. And even they acknowledge there are no true experts when it comes to this disease. We are all learning as we go. Now, one change that we are going to make based on some new information and new guidance is that we're going to be using masks more in worship, especially for singing. As you know, previously we had volunteers on Sundays indoors singing without masks. We tried to space people apart, but these new studies show the disease can travel farther and linger in the air longer, especially when singing without a mask. And we try to make sure those coming in are healthy, but there's no guarantee. You can even spread the disease and be completely asymptomatic. Temperature checks aren't 100% effective, and we can't guarantee every person who comes in has been 100% safe and refraining from any at-risk activity. We don't have this long laundry list of things of, have you gone out to eat in a restaurant indoors? Have you traveled out of your home? Have you been at work? Have you ever been around somebody without a mask? We haven't done all of that. Because even if we did, we can't guarantee people would be honest about it either. Even just remember, oh yeah, I forgot. A week ago I did this. It's impossible. We try to be as safe as we can be, though. Therefore, we will be pre-recording more of our music, or have live music with masks, or pull from old services. We started this yesterday. We pre-recorded Amy earlier in the week and had those in the sanctuary sing with masks. Now, we did purchase some masks that make it much easier to sing while wearing them, but we also realized that some people will never be able to sing well with the mask. And it's always harder when you're the only person singing. You feel you have to project more, which means a lot more breathing in and breathing out. Different people are going to be able to sing with masks better than others. Therefore, we'll have the option of pre-recording without masks or having masks in live services. It may depend on the kind of song. Some songs require a whole lot of breath. Others don't. We're going to have to be flexible with how we're doing worship. So we're going to pull from old services. We're going to do some pre-recording. We'll have some live people with masks. It's kind of like we always had music in church. You never know what you're going to get on a coming Sunday. You may have brass or strings, pre-recorded instruments. We may have a brass piece from before, brass recorded live. It's always going to be a mixture, which in some ways makes it exciting. You never know quite what you're going to get, and so it keeps worship new and fresh. Even at our outdoor services, our song leader will wear a mask. This is to be as safe as possible and also model following the state mask ordinances when people are in public. We want to be a leader in following these rules, because if we're not following them, we can't assume everyone else should either. We want to be leaders in following guidance that will help mitigate the spread of this disease. Now, our hope is that our first outdoor service will be July 28th, and we will offer 4 of those services. Now, rain could change that, or if suddenly there's a huge spike around here, that may change. It's our hope at the moment. Now, these services will feel very different than worship services you are used to. But I think just being together will feel special, at least for a while. We will have limited singing and of shorter refrains with masks on. It'll be a shorter service altogether. We will try 4 of those and see how they go. It may be that doing 4 is enough for now, and people had their fill and ready to stop. Or it may be we need to continue with those outdoor services. We will probably put out a survey to kind of gather what people think, and also about what time is best. Does Tuesday at 7 work, or do we want to try a Saturday at 5 for outdoor services? We're also beginning to look at indoor worship options. Now, our current thinking, and this hasn't gone to session yet, this is just the task force, is that perhaps we want to offer an indoor Saturday service around 5 o'clock. That would look a lot like the Tuesday outdoor service, 30 to 40 minutes, no bulletins, short sung refrains, very short, especially when inside, a shorter message. The shorter time people are together inside, the better. Basically, looking at our sanctuary and being able to space people at least 6 feet apart, we can probably fit 100 to 125 in the sanctuary. It depends on how people are seated in family units. Basically, the idea would be to have every third pew be filled up. That'll put you at about 6 feet. That would put 24 pews in use. Now, one person could sit on one end of one of the long pews in the center and one on the other end, and that would be more than 6 feet apart. Or you could have a family of 4 on a section, and 2 pews back, there'd be somebody else. Basically, around 24 pews in use to keep that spacing and distance. And again, it would look like a very different worship service. No passing of the plates. There's not going to be a lot of hymn singing. The song leader will wear a mask. We'll keep it short. And for some people, that may really be meaningful. They still just want to be able to worship in the sanctuary. I'm not sure when that will happen. It depends on a lot of factors, but we're starting to put those plans in place. Now, there's a reason we want to do that Saturday instead of Sunday. Because right now, we're in this interesting position that our live stream worship has more capabilities than does a Saturday evening when you're in the sanctuary. Because we don't have screens in the sanctuary, people can't watch any of these pre-recorded elements. And we can have a choir piece from an old service, have a video of the children's moments, have somebody pre-recorded without a mask singing a song. Therefore, on Sundays, we want to keep the live stream because we are making that so much better. And as our new technology arrives, that will get even better. We don't want to lower that quality because we have 100 people in the sanctuary and 200 watching at home, that suddenly now we have a 30-minute worship with no real music. Which is why we're trying to find a way, can we have that really good live stream for those who want to stay home, watch, have the really nice music, have the clips of children's messages, or have the clips of people reading scripture, all these different things, and also have an in-person service, whether outside or in the sanctuary, that is more of a bare bones worship service. The challenge comes when thinking, when do you make the switch to be able to have people in the building on Sunday morning and live stream it at the same time, where the experience for both groups can be good? What would make that switch? Because we can't just go on like this forever, potentially. Because eventually people will be back in the sanctuary. Do we wait till there's a vaccine where we can actually sing again? Do we wait for the new organ to come because that'll bring new life to the worship service for both the live stream and those in there? Do we put any kind of screen or projector in the sanctuary so that people who are in the sanctuary can also watch the clips that are being shown to the live stream of the singers or the choir or the children's message or little movie clips in a sermon? What do we do there? We're going to be thinking about all of those things. But these are some of the tough decisions we have. And when that'll happen is still kind of unknown. I think for the most part, we want to kind of see what happens when schools get back together. Or is that suddenly going to have a big surge in this area and make things more unsafe? Because here's the reality. I think we're in this for the long haul. Now, I'm not an expert, but unless there are drastic changes as to how people conduct their lives, this virus will keep spreading, and I'm afraid as school and other activities possibly return in the fall, that we will see more surges. Now, our concern is to keep our congregation and community as safe as possible. Nothing's 100%, but we don't want to contribute to the problem. We don't want to say, well, schools are back and the virus is going to spread anyway, so why can't we just go back to normal? That's like our boat analogy of, well, there's a hole in the boat and there's water filling up. We're all bailing as fast as we can. We're keeping afloat knowing we have to keep bailing. If we stop, it's going to get worse. We don't want to say, well, there's already a hole in the boat. let's go ahead and poke another one. It's not really going to make a difference. Even the next smallest hole, even if it's a pin-sized hole, lets in that much more water. So we want to keep things safe. If everyone does things that they just want to do, things will go bad very quickly. And while I know the chance of death is low, as the total number of cases rise, so will the total number of deaths, even if it's less than 1%. Even 0.02% is a pretty big number when you're talking about millions of people. I don't want my family, your family, to be one of those 0.02%. And I know this has been tough on people in so many ways. We've lost things, had to give up things. It's been rough emotionally, socially, and financially. I think what's helped me is having a wife who is a historian. History is tough on everyone. I can feel bad for seniors who missed proms and graduations, and that's very real. But I can also put it in the perspective of seniors who graduated and then were drafted to go off to war. I can feel for children, including my own, who haven't been able to socialize with children their own age for months. But I can also put it in the perspective of the Great Depression, where children were lucky to have watered-down milk to drink. Every generation has challenges it must face. When looking across history, I'd kind of gladly take this one over pretty much every other global challenge, from the Great Depression, the plague, the Spanish flu, the world wars, and so on. We aren't rationing food and silk and metal. We aren't teaching our kids how to put on gas masks. We aren't running for underground shelters every time a siren goes off. For the most part, we are sheltering in our homes, eating takeout instead of a restaurant, having to wear a cloth masks, maybe trying to figure out how to take care of our kids if schools are going to only be open part-time in the fall. Maybe one person has to pull back from a job in some way. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean that's ideal, that's what we want to do. But in the grand scheme, these are lower sacrifices we have to make. And there are always sacrifices to make. Life is always about sacrifice. To ever move forward, you have to sacrifice something. Just a fact of life. It's sacrificing a choice. It's sacrificing a privilege. It's sacrificing a tradition. Everybody is always asked to give things up as we progress through life. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's not even fair. But has life ever been fair? As William Golding reminds us near the end of his novel, The Princess Bride, he says, I have to say for the umpteenth time that life isn't fair. It's just fairer than death. That's all. Life has never been fair. It hasn't been perfect. It's always been hard. Life has always been full of challenges and disappointments. And I admit, in my life, for the most part, I haven't had that many grand challenges to overcome. There haven't been that many grand challenges in the world to overcome. Some of you have gone through so many different challenges, from the Great Depression, World War II, the civil rights movements of the 60s, all these things. There are some people alive today who have gone through so many challenges that this seems like nothing. And there are those of us like me who, for the most part, life has been pretty smooth. When you study history, I think you know, and I knew, it wasn't going to remain smooth forever. Didn't mean I was hoping it'd get rocky, but I knew it couldn't last forever. There are challenges every generation must face. And some generations have multiple challenges, even harder than this one. Life has always been full of challenges and disappointments. You know that. It doesn't make it any easier, but you know that. But together, we'll meet the challenges and try to make the best of them for however long we need to. We're not just going to give up. We are going to persevere. We are going to press on to the goal. And in the midst of the challenges, we'll bring hope where we can, and joy and love. Because love really is the best thing in the world, besides bacon, of course. So we'll love however we can, which may be as simple as not complaining so much, or wearing your mask to ease someone else's worry, donating to the food bank, writing a card, ordering takeout, just keeping others' spirits and morale up. Morale is often not considered as much as it should be. That sometimes we have to just work to make others laugh and be happy for a moment, because morale can be low. And that can be damaging. And that's why we've tried to do fun things here at the church, from the March Mission Madness to some Dairy Good News to this new Here in This Place initiative we started today, where people could come and just be at the church, listen to music. It's just a moment in the week to come and have some peace, hear some music, have a little fun. It doesn't change everything. It doesn't fix the problem. But maybe for a moment, it brings some peace. So that's why we have things like Here in This Place on Monday, how we're trying to have outdoor worship as safely as possible. But no matter what, we'll still be here. We've been here for nearly 300 years. We may have indoor worship on some Saturday nights. We may be back in the sanctuary on Sunday morning sometime this year, although worship would look different. We may miss some concerts and Sunday schools, but we'll still be here. We'll still be here to pray for you, to help you, and to bring hope. We hope you'll still be here through all of this too. We're stronger and we're better together. We are Dairy. We're rooted, giving, and growing, even in a pandemic. And I think that's comforting. There's so much unknown right now, but this is sure. Dairy is here, and we will be here, and we will proclaim God's word, share God's love, and practice God's justice no matter what. We'll still be here through it all. It may look different. We may keep changing things. We may say we're going to try this, then have to pull it back. It may look like the goalposts are constantly moving because the world is constantly moving and shifting. But we'll still be here with you and for you through it all. And so if you have any needs, any hopes, any challenges, any losses, let us know, because we want to be here with you through it all. Because like all the challenges this world has faced, this will end too. And we'll be here together still, through it all, worshiping God together here in this place. May God be with you until we meet again.